Hello, welcome to the 2018 Back to School Summit. I am so happy to be here. My name is Jennifer Aaliyah. I am a certified teacher for K-8 general education. I've also worked as a special education teacher in a resource room and as a special education tutor. In addition, I was a K-12 French teacher and worked 12 years as a French professor when I first had my children. I'm a mother of 4 with children ranging in age from 20 months to 14 years old, and I homeschool my children. Because of all this and my love for designing curriculum for local school districts, family, friends, and other programs, I decided to become a homeschool mentor and curriculum designer so I could help other people get the benefit of what I love to do. That's why I founded my company, Aurelius Cabrini Homeschool Resource Center. At Aurelius Cabrini, we believe that every mom can teach every child, and I'm on a mission to support all the moms who wish that they could homeschool, or who are overwhelmed and don't know where to start, or those who are just started but are very much struggling and need a little bit of guidance to know where to get to. So I help out new homeschoolers. I offer support and community for those who don't have it, because support and community is so very important to homeschooling. You really are performing a service and you have an education career. You just don't have coworkers, a principal, a superintendent, and everyone to help you through it. So I provide coaching and guidance, curriculum design, learning plans, and anything that a mom would need to have a successful and thriving homeschool. What's unique about Aurelius Cabrini Homeschool Resource Center is that it was built for moms, not just built for students. So I really am excited to be here talking to moms about back to school and helping you through your homeschool or traditional school journey, because both of them are coming from a place of wanting to support your children and give them the best education possible. So when I am faced with a parent who has a child who is very much struggling, and when that happens in homeschool, even in brick and mortar schools, often the parent is struggling too because of the tension and the frustration that builds up in the family and how difficult it is for this child to succeed, and we all want our children to have the best. So when I'm faced with that, I have a 5-step program that I've used with my own children, 2 of whom have special learning needs, and it is a way to assess what's going on and move forward in a positive way that's going to have a big impact for their education, for their self-confidence, and for their future. The first step is to decompress. And this is something that's going to seem counterintuitive. And I know as a young mom, a new homeschooler, when I was faced with a child who was really struggling and ended up having a learning disability, I had a really hard time thinking about maybe we need to stop. Because we keep thinking, well, we need to try harder. We need to work harder. We need to keep going. And that's not always the best way. When a child is caught and very frustrated, even if it's in one area, that spills over into everything. And it makes it much more difficult for them to succeed overall. So my first step is to decompress. And what I say to do is to take a break, a real break, not try something new, not throw this out and take that in, but take a break that's going to give everyone a chance to catch their breath. In my practice, when I'm dealing with homeschoolers, I generally suggest a 2-week to 6-month break. Now, those 6 months sounds huge, and you think, I am never going to catch up with that. But the 6 months doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It just means that you're not focusing on the rigors of education on your checklist or on the specific area that is frustrating this child most. An example is, the average child learns how to read between 4.5 and 9 years old. That's the average. that isn't taking into account children that are extremely off the charts brilliant, or children on the other end of the spectrum that maybe have learning disabilities or some other physical disability that is slowing them down. Okay, so this is just average. This has nothing to do with any kind of special needs on either end of the spectrum. An average child learns between 4.5 and 9 years old. But we tend to think every child needs to learn between 5 and 6. Now, some children are reading before they get to that 5-year point, but many children won't be reading for a few years after that. And so when we push them forward and they just aren't ready, it's not that they can't learn, it's just that they aren't mature enough in the ways that they need to be to successfully attempt that task. Reading isn't an innate skill, it's something that needs to be learned. And so cognitively, physically, emotionally, you need to be ready to do that. Just like babies, when they learn how to walk or crawl, do that at different stages. There's an average, but they have different timetables because everyone is unique, and that's what makes the world so exciting. So if you have a child, and reading tends to be one of those stickers in the beginning, that is really struggling with reading, it could be that even just 6 months from now, they will be capable of learning so much faster than they are now. And if you take a break, they will come back and excel instead of struggling for 6 months. And so some of my recommendations for how to decompress is to really take a hard break for at least a week or 2. This way, maybe you do just reading or read aloud. You take a field trip. You do experiments. You do art projects. Do things that will engage the senses and get them excited, and call it school, but don't make it homework and tests and checklists and textbooks. Take that hard break, catch your breath, let all the frustration go out. So the first step is definitely to decompress, and this may be the hardest step for you to do because you want things to improve, your child wants things to improve, but they're not going to improve when everybody is stressed out. So if you take that step back, I promise you, you'll be so happy that you did. Once you've had a chance to decompress, however you decided to do it, sit down by yourself, but then also with your child, and focus on the strengths. Everyone has weaknesses and strengths, and I always tell my children there's always something that someone needs to work on. None of us are masters of everything. So everyone has a weakness, but focusing on that weakness is only going to make it weaker, and it's going to lead to the frustration building up again. What we want to do is focus on the strength, because every person may have a weakness, but everyone also has a strength. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has something to give to the world. And it could be that their gift is that they did start reading at 4.5, but now they just can't learn how to do addition and subtraction. Their gift could be that they can memorize the baseball stats of the local baseball team and tell you every game and who has won and how many runs they had and what their score was and where they're ranking for the past 6 years. That is a gift. We need people like that. Their gift may be sculpting or painting or helping out, doing first aid, taking care of younger children, volunteering, organizing. Whatever their gift is, sit down and find it. Find that gift and cultivate it. It could be that their gift is just their love, their passion. My daughter, who was my late reader, loves horses. She's loved horses since she was 16 months old, and that's all she thinks about. And so when life gets frustrating and overwhelming with her disability, we go back to horses. And we study the biology of horses. We study the history of horses. We read literature about horses. We draw pictures of horses. That is what has kept her going, even when things were difficult. And building on that base, giving her that strength, giving her opportunity to exercise her passion has been liberating for her, because when she couldn't read, she could still ride and she could still experience things that lit her up inside. And you want to keep that joy going. You want to have them be excited and just looking forward to learning something new. So, building on that strength, whatever it is, sit down and think about it. And then sit down with your child and say, you know what? You are really good at taking care of those plants. My house plants look so wonderful because you take such good care of them. You know exactly how much to water them. You know how to fertilize them, exactly how much lighting they need. We are going to start a project and we are going to build an inside garden for you to take care of. And we're going to read about these plants and we're going to draw pictures of them. And we're just going to really learn the best way to take care of those plants because you have a really great interest in that. And have the child see that, wow, there is something they are contributing in this world that is so special that you pointed it out. And so now you could even ask them, is there something else that you feel that you are really great at, that you want to have a chance to learn more about? And it may be, hey, I want to read more about whales. Okay, so now you're going to move your decompression from maybe just laying low and listening to audiobooks or going on hikes. You're going to move your decompression, kind of ramp it up a little step, and take time to cultivate that. And you can, in the style of doing unit studies, learn every subject revolving around a certain topic. Or you can even just take a little bit of time and study something new. Or take more time in that subject and let the other one go by the side for a little bit. So if math is a struggle, maybe you want to just do math games for a while and focus on this science that they love and that ignites their soul. Once you've had a chance to build up the strengths and have that child meet with success, the next step you want to do is check physical causes. Because young children, especially if the disability is reading, are not going to understand that they're not seeing the words properly, or that when they look far away, things don't look quite the way they should. When we get older and our eyes change, we realize that we're not seeing the same way. But a child won't realize that they're not seeing the way they're supposed to. So that is just one example. If reading is a problem, or even writing is a problem, checking the eyes is very important. If following directions or communication is a problem, checking the ears is very important. Again, a child's not going to necessarily be able to tell you that they're not hearing properly, or they may use words that are kind of vague. So this is when you need to take the time to assess the physical causes. And you want to look at this and do your own personal assessment, and then follow up with a doctor or another professional who can guide you in the ways that maybe testing that needs to be done, maybe accommodations that need to be done. Not all of these are going to be physical problems, though. I mean, everybody, like I said, has strengths and weaknesses. So you don't want this child to become their diagnosis, and that's why we start with strengths. But if a child needs glasses, or a child needs hearing aids, or a child needs something special to hold the pencil the right way, or occupational therapy to build up the muscles in their body so that they can physically sit in a chair and write something, then that is something that they're not going to be able to work harder and overcome. They need that tool. They need that resource. You can't build a house if you didn't have a hammer. So you need that resource to get what you need to accomplish your goal. The other side of the physical assessment is to look at what are your child's dietary needs? What are your child's movement needs? What about lighting? What about seating? There's much more that can be done in a homeschool setting than in a school. But even in a school, they've started to introduce flexible seating and other accommodations. And that's something to think about. If your child is not having lunch until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it could simply be that they are just too hungry and need a snack, or they need a better breakfast. We found out through much trial and error that my boys really need a high protein filling breakfast for them to get their work done. Otherwise, the frustration level is through the roof and they can't concentrate, they can't figure things out, and it's not because they can't do it. It's because their body isn't nourished in the way that they need. So taking some notes, taking some observations, trying something new. They may just need 5 minutes to run around the yard halfway through the morning, or a better lighting. Some people are very sensitive to the type of lighting that you use. So it could be that the fluorescent lighting just is causing problems and you need an LED. All of these fall under checking for physical causes. And it could be a very simple tweak. It could be that you just need a nutrition tweak, or it could be that you need a specialist. But physical problems are not something that are going to go away. So you need to address those before diving deeper into getting them back on track and back to where you want them to be. Now, once you've had your physical causes, the physical causes assessed, and maybe you've tweaked your schedule, you've found a different seating that works, whatever it is that helps your child be more comfortable and thrive, and you've made sure to kind of check them out head to toe. Now you can go back and look at that weakness, because there obviously is something that was causing the struggle to begin with. And if the physical causes didn't solve the whole problem, which sometimes they will alleviate the struggle, but if they're behind in math, they're still behind in math. So that's the weakness you need to look at. You need to go back and assess that weakness. Often the physical might not be enough, and there is something that you need to look at. Is it just a lack of understanding math facts and having a solid foundation in that? Do you need to just stop all your math and just learn the facts for 6 to 8 months and then restart again? Or is it something deeper? Is it a neurological issue? Is it a learning disability? Is it something that is going to need a little bit of accommodation? You need to look and assess that weakness and see where, now that we've had a chance to step back and look, now that we've built up your strengths and we see, hey, you are really great in science, you are really great in handwriting, you are really great at following directions or coloring in the lines or doing handwriting, whatever it is, now we can rule those out. We can rule those out. Those aren't the problems. That isn't what we need to focus on any longer. What we need to focus on is what is possibly causing this deficiency. And I really believe that every deficiency can be addressed and can be overcome. And it may not be that you're going to overcome that in the way you originally planned, but everything can be worked through. So once we know what that weakness is, now we can find a way to deal with it and to move forward. And once you have an idea of what it is, you're going to want to find a way to have an assessment done, either by a consultant, a doctor, a neurologist, a special ed teacher, a mentor, someone who can sit down and say, well, this sounds like this is what's going on, and these point to this, or this test gives this diagnosis. And like I said, I hesitate to use the word diagnosis because no one should be their diagnosis. Everyone is a person, whether it's that you have a learning disability or have cancer. You're an individual person. You're not who your diagnosis is. But that diagnosis is going to set you up to know how to teach that child the way they can learn. When my daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia, she also has a couple related issues, but I started to suspect it because when we narrowed everything down, it was a reading problem, and she was very verbal, so obviously it wasn't a communication problem. It was something with taking the words from the page to the eyes and understanding them. And so I spoke with many different experts, and one consultant helped me so much because she sat down with me and said, do you see this? Do you see this? Do you see this? And I thought, oh, I didn't even realize that those were things to look for. I mean, I knew to look for reversals of letters. I knew to look for struggling with reading. I knew certain hallmarks because I had worked in a resource room with children with special needs, but I didn't know that putting clothes on backwards and inside out was part of dyslexia. There were so many things that I thought, wow, I just thought that that was a quirky personality trait that she would outgrow or we would learn to deal with. But actually, they were hallmarks of a bigger problem that I had missed. And so once I had sat down and gone through that, then I could have an action plan of, this is how we're going to get this child to know how to do all these things that are frustrating her, because it's not just the reading that's frustrating, it's all these other things that I didn't realize had anything to do with, I thought it was just a reading problem. So assessing the weakness with someone who can give you advice, or even just someone that can help you narrow down what that is, can help you move on to the next step, because now you can find ways to help and find ways to teach that will support that weakness and also at the same time encourage the strength. So now you have a recipe for success and progress. And that is what children need. They need to know they're making it somewhere. They need to know not an artificial inflation like, oh, good job, good job, good job. No, they want to know that they can do it. And when you have the tools that they need, then they can learn how to do it. And that builds up the confidence, not an artificial way. So once you've assessed all the weaknesses and gone through every step that you need to make sure that now you understand what's going on, the last step is to begin again. Now you have a chance to step out on the right foot, because you already built that foundation. You've built a strong foundation because you first started with their strengths, and you are going to continue to do that. You are going to build a curriculum that works with their strengths but supports their weaknesses. You've also checked their physical needs, and you've addressed that. You've assessed their weaknesses. Now you understand what they are and what you need to do to help with them. So now you're going to begin again and design a learning experience that is tailored to what that child needs, to help him or her grow in the most fruitful way possible. That they're not just going down the checklist, that they're not behind, that they're not their deficiency, but they are a person who loves to learn, and this is what they're going to learn. So taking their passion, taking their strength, and finding ways to support their weakness, such as a curriculum that is designed with Orton Gillingham style of teaching for someone who has dyslexia, or a curriculum that uses hands-on learning for those that maybe struggle with auditory learning. Whatever it is, once you have gotten to the point that you understand what your child needs, you can move on, begin again. And even if it's been 2 weeks, it's been 2 months, it's been 6 months, it's been 9 months since you started this process, I promise you that when you begin again, you're not beginning behind. You can't think, oh, I lost all of 2nd grade, or oh, we'll never make it into the AP class 5 years from now, or what will happen when this 5-year-old wants to go to college and this is all we did for kindergarten this year. Even if your child's in 6th or 7th grade, it's never too late to start again, because once they have what they need, once they are on that solid foundation and heading in the direction that's best suited for them, they are going to excel at rates that will boggle your mind. At some point, it's all going to come together, and they will reach their fullest, greatest individual potential, and it will surprise you both. Because even though learning disabilities or physical disabilities cannot be erased, they can be worked with, and someone still has value to give to the world with their gifts, and they still can learn how to excel with the gifts that they have and the deficiencies, because those deficiencies really are gifts. It's giving them the gift of learning how to work with something, learning how a new way of doing things. So once you begin again, you have set them up for success. And I know that when I did this with my daughter, I was really worried because, especially as a certified teacher, you need to get here by first grade, you need to get there by second grade, you should be finished with this by December. And those checklists were calling at me constantly, and I thought, what am I going to do? But what I soon saw was once we had gone through our 5 steps, and once we had that solid foundation and had ignited that passion, she jumped ahead by leaps and bounds. Despite the profound dyslexia, at the beginning I thought, well, functional reading is our goal. Despite that, she surpassed her grade level reading. She skipped a grade. She did an AP biology class and got an A-. All of that was possible because we went through these steps and set her up on a path for success instead of continuing to push what wasn't working.